comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So I went to the Van Morrison concert last night, and I can tell you, Van is unequivocally the man. To be honest with you, I wasn't expecting much because I know the history of Van Morrison. He's a grumpy cunt. He doesn't like playing his old songs. He just wants to do what he wants to do, like any true artist. And plus, he's 80 years old. So I obviously wasn't expecting too much. I just wanted to see Van Morrison. Out of all the people throughout all the years I've listened to, Van Morrison is the constant. From when I was a kid up until I still listen to Van Morrison all the time now. Especially renewed Van Morrison because the kids like him too. And so I get to share it with them. So there was a little bit of nostalgia to the whole thing. I was going for nostalgic reasons, but Van Morrison, he's a fucking performer. He's an artist. His voice was still fucking on point. He couldn't launch into sustained astral weeks fucking 1960s energetic fucking possessed harmonics, but you could hear Van in his voice, and at times he let rip. He fucking jumped on the saxophone and shredded the saxophone, was playing harmonica, got the guitar out, was leading the band, and I was getting very emotional. Like, I was tearing up. 3 songs in, I started tearing up. I'm like, that's Van Morrison. And then I was like, I've been listening to this guy since I was a kid. Van's music has been probably the most important music to me throughout my life. And I'm like, I'm here and he's here. And then I was like, I'll always just be a little kid listening to Van. And I was starting to get like emotional. I'm even a little bit emotional now. I'm like, that's all you ever are. You're just a little kid. I'm like, I'm just a little kid listening to Van Morrison always. And the tears are welling up in my eyes. And like I'm getting full emotional. And then the guy behind me, some American cunt, starts speaking at a volume that is astounding for a concert. It's a sit-down concert. It's not like people were up there dancing. They probably wanted to dance, but here's another thing about fucking Van Morrison. He's 80 and actually he's looking pretty good. I thought he was going to be fat, but he was actually quite slim, like he was skinny. So he's 80 and he's doing pretty good. Tell you who's not doing too good? His crowd. His crowd are looking pretty shaky. I'm telling you right now, if he comes back for another fucking run, another concert, I wouldn't leave it 5 years. That's all I'm saying. If he leaves at 5 years, the Wang Theatre, which is one of the most beautiful theatres I've ever been in, I want to play that theatre. I want to stand where Van stood and tell some racist jokes. So I'm focusing in on that. It's so fucking beautiful, that theater. I fucking loved it. But if he leaves at 5 years, he's going to have to reduce the venue because the average age, I would say, of his crowd is grey hair and bald. There was a lot of walking sticks. There was a lot of walking sticks going up and down the aisle. I'll just put it that way. So if I was Van and you're feeling healthy, I'd do another run through in maybe a year or 2. 5 years, you might be playing a much smaller venue. And I tell you what else wasn't there? People of colour. There were no people of colour besides my wife and one other guy. So it was all old white people with grey hair or bald. And I'm not exaggerating there. It was the last remaining remnants of the boomer contingency. So anyway, I was getting emotional and I'm tearing up thinking I I'm just a little kid listening to Van Morrison, and then this fucking American cunt. Obviously, pretty much everyone is from America, but like, the loud ones. This cunt was speaking so fucking loud, and he was directly behind me as well. He was just fucking doing my head in. Before the concert started, he was behind me on a phone call, and he's like yelling into the phone, trying to convince this guy to come down because he's got a spare ticket. And he finally convinced this guy to come down. He hangs up the phone, and like at the top of his voice, he turns to his mate and he's like, "He's black." And his mate's like, "Yeah, okay." He's like, "Yeah, he's black. He has a little bit of dementia. They did something to his head. They drained some fluid, so he's a little bit dense too." And I'm like, all right, this is before the concert. So I'm like, this guy is going to be a fucking problem. And then he just, in the middle of the concert, he starts fucking talking. And I am fucking angry. I'm turning back to him, and I'm not even pretending. I'm like, if you continue speaking, there's going to be problems. I was even thinking I'll probably get thrown out of the country if I attack this guy. If I attack this guy, I'm probably going to jail for a little bit, and I'll get thrown out of the country. And I was weighing up my options as well. This cunt was fucking doing my head in. So I would stare at him, and then he would be quiet for a little bit, but the cunt couldn't help himself. So I'm fucking oscillating in between, like visualizing murdering this guy and crying because I'm watching Van Morrison. And then Van played I couldn't believe it. He played Into the Mystic, which is my dad's favorite song and probably, one of my favorite Van Morrison songs ever. And it just so happens to be the song when I was first messaging my wife before we met. This is when I was like still fucking drinking before I quit when I met her. I was like, you gotta listen, you gotta listen to Into the Mystic. If you can understand that song, you can understand me. And so she listened to it. She's like, what's with this song? But it has some history with us as well. So he played that song, and again, emotional as fuck. My wife's getting emotional. I'm getting emotional. It's a beautiful fucking thing. And then I start thinking, I'm like, it was great watching Van Morrison sing Into the Mystic. Like, that was beautiful. And he actually closed with Gloria as well. And I'm like, that was great. But I actually fucking loved watching him just do his thing on the other songs that I had no fucking idea what they were. I'd never heard them before, but he was like locked in on some of these other songs, and that was dragging me in more. And I'm like, actually, artists like Van Morrison don't give you what you want, they give you what you need. Like, you don't and I was thinking about this as well. I'm like, the courage it took Van Morrison to decide not to play his hits throughout his career is monumental. To decide, no, I'm not going to just do covers of my old songs. I'm an artist. I'm going to continue creating art, and the people can either take it or leave it. That takes true courage, because what happens when you make that decision is your audience gets smaller and smaller and smaller. That's why when you go and see a concert, Metallica, AC/DC, Rolling Stones, they're just fucking churning out the classics. Because if they don't play Satisfaction or Shook Me All Night Long, if they're not just churning out the hits, they can have 2 songs in a row that are like new. But if they have 3 or 4 in a row that you don't know, the audience will start walking out. They're like, fucking, these guys suck now, let's leave. So Van Morrison had to go through that. He had hits. He had fucking like 6 of the greatest albums ever in a row at the start of his career. He could have just lived off that, just played fucking Moonlight or fucking Brown Eyed Girl and just made everyone happy. But he didn't do that, and he sacrificed audience for his artistic integrity, and he rewards the people that stayed with him, because you actually don't want to watch someone like Van Morrison sing a retarded version of the songs that you've listened to your whole entire life. What you want to see them doing is what they're up to now, where they are artistically now. And you've got to trust the artist. I didn't understand that until last night. I didn't understand what he did until last night. And I'm sure he was a cunt all those years is because everyone just wanted him to play the fucking hits. And he just wanted to showcase where he's at now. And the people who went with him on the journey are the ones who got rewarded. Well, there's a tension between doing the old songs, because it is really a gift to be able to play an old song in a concert and take the audience member back to where they were when they were listening to this music. You know, because like people have a connection to music that's deeper, probably deeper than any other art. And so to play a song or two is a gift to the audience. And when he was playing Gloria at the end, he wasn't belting it out like it sounds on the album. He's 80 now, but he was singing it in his own way. Everyone was up and it was a nice end to it. But the beauty of the show was actually the stuff that he enjoyed. I just fucking loved it. I fucking loved it. My wife loved it. It was great. He's released 42, I think it was. It's either 42 or 48 albums. Prolific. That is prolific. I've listened to, I would say 10. I remember a few years back, I was doing album for album, Bob Dylan and Van Morrison. And Bob Dylan was ahead until Astral Weeks. And I just don't think there's a better album than Astral Weeks. Bringing it back home, Bob Dylan was my favorite Bob Dylan, but Astral Weeks is something else. It's completely something else. Anyway, it was a very soul-nourishing night last night. It was good to get a couple of fucking tears out. I didn't end up killing the guy behind me, although I wanted to. The lady in front of me wanted to as well. He didn't stop after I gave him the eyeballs either. He continued. And I did say one time when I looked back, I was like, you better shut the fuck up pretty quick. I don't know if you heard it, but I said it. And this girl in front of me, she was fucking eyeballing him too, yelling out, are you going to be quiet? So it wasn't just me. It was this prick. He was a fucking prick. The dense black guy who was the only other person of color in the fucking whole venue, he was quiet. I suppose because he's dense. Anyway, fucking, that went way too long. So I'm just gonna go Fucked Up Friday tomorrow. I'll do the Fucked Up Friday tomorrow. This is a stand-alone Van the Man episode. It was so good. I fucking loved it. Anyway, that'll do for tonight. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you the fuck later.